So this is the deck we were looking at the other day. It's called the Rumi Oracle. Rumi was a Persian poet, mystic, said a lot of stuff, wrote a lot of stuff. And I think the idea when they created this deck was, when you read the guidebook, there's a lot of references to this guy's writing and included little excerpts of his poetry as well. So it was cool to read, though I don't really take guidebook stuff when it comes to cards into so much consideration, because I really read off of what I feel as opposed to what someone tells me the cards mean. So I'm gonna kind of go through all the cards and say, more general interpretations of what they could mean, because especially with this deck, they're, I think, much more general kind of images and a little harder to decipher, kind of more abstract. So I think the exact meaning would depend, every time you pull a card in an actual reading, which is whatever energy would be coming through, but I'll try to come up with, more the general concepts of them. Plus, they're all just very pretty to look at, so that's what's really important. Okay, so this is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck right at the start. It says, Beyond Death, Life. So this is a card kind of about endings and beginnings. And you could read it as like a spiritual card that deals with the afterlife, kind of spirit guidance, and that sort of thing. But I also think it's, much more metaphorical than that in a lot of cases. Beyond each stage in our life that ends, something new begins. So every ending is a beginning. And even in those moments where it feels like things really are ending, like, something so bad or so final, it's like you're gonna die, and it really feels that way for a while. But then you don't. And there's always something after. There's always something that comes out of, the fallout of that situation. So I think it's a card that really reminds you to look beyond the present moment, especially if it's a bad one. And remember that something's coming after. And hopefully something better than before, because when one thing leaves our life, it's to make way for something that needs to enter at that moment. So there's no real ends, Even when it comes to literal death, there's still something after. Okay. Passion for Purpose. This is a really pretty card, actually. I really like this one. So, I think this card's very much about just really trying to find something that's meaningful to you. The purpose that you find in something when you feel that you're making a difference, or when something really feels like it's connecting to your soul. And you can see she's kind of like becoming part of the rose. So I think it's like, when you do something that you feel really passionate about, that you feel gives you that purpose, it's like that thing becomes a part of you, or you become a part of that thing. And it's very symbiotic. And you're going to feel right at home in something when it's the right thing for you to do, when it's really giving meaning to your life. Okay, this is definitely one of the coolest looking ones. And even in person, this is so blindingly bright. It's a real highlighter yellow. Kind of hurts a little to look at. I do feel like this is one of the more abstract sort of cards because I think there's so many ways to read it, and I know it says the dissolving light, but I feel like depending on the situation, you could read this as something that's shrinking down or something that's growing outwards. It's a very spiritual card to me when I tend to see it. Light of the universe, and feeling your connection to it, and where you have that light within yourself. And when you really feel connected to it, you're going to grow, you're going to be aligned with everything. And that light's just going to burst from you, and you're going to feel so in tune with everything. And people are going to feel your light and your energy coming out of you. But when you feel disconnected from things, when you don't feel purposeful, or when you feel a lot of shame or around something in your life, around your sense of self, feel like you want to kind of hide away, like you can't really bring your light into the world, you shrink down, and you kind of collapse into yourself, and you disconnect from the light. So I kind of like that this card can go two ways and show what happens when you're really letting yourself shine and opening yourself up and trying to connect, and then what happens when you let go of that and you just let all your fear and dread and shame just condense you down. But I think the important thing is, the light's always there. It's just whether you're growing, towards it or not. Because there's always that opportunity to connect again and to, grow back out. And really be in harmony with yourself and with everything else again. It's gonna be a really long video if I talk this long about all the cards. Well, we're gonna see. So this one says the Cloak of Christ. Not 100% sure if this is supposed to be Jesus in the picture, or if it's like a picture of a woman. I don't even know. But, it's a card about protection and feeling that you're safe, that you're supported, and that could be spiritually, like on the other side. That, a religious figure or just your guides on the other side, that they're looking out for you, protecting you. Or the feeling that, the people in your life are being supportive, and knowing that nothing bad's gonna happen, that you're in a good place, that you're protected, especially in the spiritual sense, very divinely protected. And that could be, going through a very positive time, or just the knowledge that no matter what, everything's gonna be okay. And you're always being supported, especially from the other side. And I think it's kind of significant that this is actually card number 4, because 4, like the square, it's like a very, kind of like a house. It makes you feel like you're supported, like 4 walls, It's a very solid number, and you see that a lot in the tarot, actually, of the 4s being kind of something to do with structure and stability. Another slightly more abstract one. It says, I search on the uprising wave of love. And I think this card is just showing pretty much what it says, a time of love and feeling love from other people, from the universe, feeling it within yourself. And, when you connect to feelings of love, the way that, you just kind of rise up, and that doesn't have to be in regards to any specific relationship or anything. Just, when you come from the mindset of connecting to love, of opening yourself up, of trying to see the best in every situation, trying to connect to other people, even in general, as opposed to closing yourself off or believing in a really negative mindset. When you just let all that good stuff in, it really elevates the soul, elevates your vibration, and it lifts you up and allows, I think, for better things to happen and more opportunities to come in. This one just says 1. I find this to be a really reassuring one. It just shows the concept of oneness, and that could be interpreted in so many ways. I think this is feeling at one with the universe, feeling whole within yourself. Getting that feeling that everything in the world, in the universe, is connected. We're all one, kind of one big soul. And we're all part of kind of one big mosaic of the universe. Just feeling really at peace and content within yourself, and maybe this can show that someone's just happy by themselves and going through sort of a restful period, more meditative. Maybe they're keeping to themselves more and really just feeling that inner harmony or connection to the universe. Or it can show a deep connection to everyone at once and really wanting to be one and connected to people. But for some reason I always feel a bit of a hermit energy from this card, because I think with that knowledge that everything is connected and you're always connected to everything and everyone, there's also the realization that you don't have to chase people, you don't have to chase constant attention and opportunity. Everything's always connected. You can't really lose connection to humanity or to nature or to anything spiritual. And even sometimes in solitude, that connection can still feel strong, and you just have that knowledge within you, and you're okay with yourself and okay with the state of things. And I see there's a lot of third eye and crown energy coming through this card. Because those are the kind of things, when you're really open at those chakras, that you understand about the world. This one says Blood Angel, which is a little more of a scary title than the last one. Very vibrant card, very passionate, I think. And I feel a bit more of an abstract sort of message from this one. Like, I'd probably take it more, as what I was feeling in the reading than anything else. But yeah, I see a lot of passion in the card with these colors. And I always it gives me a competitive sort of feeling, very, blood pumping, that could be competition or aggression. But it can also just be really going for something, getting into it, really letting that passion come through. And I feel like, it can be a dangerous thing to get too worked up about things sometimes. There could be some obsession connected to this card. But it could also be about something that really pays off because of your dedication. Or maybe it would be something completely different when I looked at it if I pulled it for someone. I feel like we're hitting the abstract ones now. Yeah, this one says Cosmic Heart. I also feel a very strong universal connection coming through this card, and it's interesting, it kind of has every color in it, all the chakras. So I feel like it's a very energetically powerful card. It might say something, depending on the reading, about, where you need to be directing your energy, or how to bring yourself into perfect energetic alignment. I feel like, Cosmic Hearts, it's what's really at the heart of what you want right now, what you need right now, what are you pulling in with your energy, what are you desiring, and how can you bring that into your life in a healthy way, while keeping everything and all your chakras in balance. Alright, then possible made possible. So that one I think is a little more literal. Just a reminder that the things that we think are impossible in this world can really happen someday. And that can be something specific that you never think's going to happen, or it can be a more general concept, to do with success, with love, with recognition. Someday you're gonna get the things that you want. Someday, something that once seemed impossible, there's gonna be a big cosmic shift, and everything energetically will change. But in order to bring that about, we need to remember that nothing's really impossible. And that if we really want something, we just have to keep our heart open to it. And we're going to get what we need in the end, even if it's not exactly what we thought we wanted. Just never give up on anything. As long as it feels aligned with what you need. Just believe that miracles can happen. Some of these have kind of odd names, or words used, because like I said, Rumi was Persian, and some of the words are, kind of different language, and reference another language, and like another faith, so. It says Celestial Rose of Ma. Do not know what that means, but it's not really important. So it's another rose image, and there's also tiny little people in it if you look closely. I think this card deals with very deep desires, the things that are special to us, that we hold close to our heart. And, in the darkness, how do you keep that special thing alive and centered in your mind and in your heart? And, depending on the reading, I think this can deal both with trying to keep something special alive, and also could be recognition of when we're clinging to something that maybe we think we want, but is not best for us, isn't in alignment. And how do we let go of that obsessive thought when it's just not serving us properly? And maybe we're starting to idolize something that isn't really benefiting us at all. Sacred convergence. So there's a lot of little people if you look closely. I don't know if you've been noticing. They look abstract, but you can see little figures, and this is like a whole woman's face on the side. There's all these little people represented, and I think that's important in cards like this, Sacred Convergence, about really coming together and feeling connected to a community, to like-minded people that share values or a goal. And what's like when it all comes together. And I think this card really has a place of, feeling like you belong. Either in a community or just, could be just in your place in the world. Good feeling of alignment, like things are coming together. It could also be, you just really feel things are coming together in your life and all the different aspects are joining together in a harmonious way. All the different threads of your life are converging. Very positive one, I think. Hard to keep them all neat. Alright, divine discontents. This is a very interesting one to me. I really like that phrase, though. This would be seen, at first glance, I guess, like a more negative card. When you feel like you're not happy with things aren't going your way, everything seems to be turning out wrong, there's a shadow over everything, you feel like you're in this dreary, rainy looking blue time. But, with the phrase divine discontent, it's just a reminder that everything we go through is for a reason. There's a divine reason in feeling so down, feeling like things are going wrong, not working out, and you might not see that in the moment. But maybe you have to experience, this time of doubt or depression, sadness, in order to realize that you're not happy with things and you need to make a change. You could be in this state for a couple days and decide, I'm going to shake things up, break out of it. It could be years of just feeling down and down and down until finally something breaks through to you and you go, what, it's within my power to change the situation and I'm going to do something. Or maybe something completely, seemingly out of your control happens and suddenly you realize, oh, that's why that time of discontent, that negative thing happened. It's because it was leading up to this other thing happening that was going to put everything into perspective and back into alignment. So, even the bad times that we go through, there's always a deeper meaning to it. And sometimes I think it helps to think of things like that, to try to consider, why am I going through this and what can I take out of it? And can this be a time for reflection? And there's always something beautiful in everything that's happening, even when it feels like this. So in a way, this is one of my favorite cards, because it's one of the ones that really makes me think. And also, I think one that I connect to a lot. And I think I feel this way a lot. So it's always something important for me to keep in mind. Interesting. I put these all in order before. I didn't realize that they've got kind of these negative looking cards back to back. This one says Arise. So again, you see the melancholy blue motif here. And this person kind of curled up in on themselves. But then, the color changes and there's this white angelic part of the card. And I guess maybe they are in an order, feeling this way for who knows how long. And then you get to the point where it says arise, and you're being called out of this negative space from the blue into the white. And this card shows, being called to move on, to get off the floor, to start seeing the light, meeting something new in your life. Even if it's hard, even if you're still sad, really shows us the time to embrace something new, to start looking for that positive. Probably shows that there's something that really wants to enter your life, and maybe you're just not seeing it because you got your head in your hands. But you got to start looking up and looking around and seeing that something really big and really positive is coming. You just got to be aware of what that is and open to letting positivity into your life, even if you're feeling like everything's going to be negative forever. That mindset's going to only manifest more negativity. This one says, let love transform. Much more colorful. We're out of the depressing looking cards for the moment. So I think, with all these different colors and all the kind of spirally shapes you see when you let love in, when you let that positive light in, everything shifts. You get this whole colorful view of things. And this could be about a mindset, like we talked about with one of the other cards, of just being open to all that light and love and sort of divine connection. Or it can be about a specific situation, letting the love, the positive connection with another person, any type of person, any type of loving connection. Whoever that's with, letting that positive connection, that support of another person or other people around you, letting it show you the light, letting it have a positive influence on your life. When you connect to love and that feeling of connection itself, what positive effect it has, how it shifts the way that you view the world. Or just how, the support of just one really good, influential person in your life. Or the influence of a positive community or anything like that. How it can shift you as an individual. And open you up to, all the new colors. Okay, this one says Divine Mother Manifests. I can see this in a few ways. This can show, the universe really bringing something positive to your life that you might not even be aware of, that's about to come. Maybe you're seeing it manifest right now. Maybe it means that, she's still got it in her hands and it's about to drop into your life, and you just got to believe that positive thing is coming. It could also be, about the self. Anyone can see themselves in the mother figure, and, maybe you're really doing something in your life right now to manifest something positive. Maybe you're making good change for yourself, for another person, for the world. And maybe you're the one bringing all of that goodness onto yourself or onto other people. But either way, it shows something good coming to you, coming from you. And just, there's always a higher power at play, but also, as an individual, you always have the power to create goodness in your own life. Or I suppose it could be a person bringing something really powerful into your life. Another person could be helping you see things in a positive way, or doing healing, helpful things for you. So, a few different ways you can look at that. But all of them very positive. From nothing to everything. So you can see something really big kind of exploding into the sky, and where presumably there was darkness a minute ago, now there's this huge, intense flash of light. And, sometimes it feels like we were, talking about, like, there's just nothingness, there's an empty void, and then suddenly everything changes, and your whole situation is different. And what feels like you have nothing is suddenly, there's just so much going on, or so much in your life. Or something that seemed like it was never going to happen suddenly just burst to life. And you have to remember that sometimes that happens, It seems like there's nothingness, and then suddenly everything's kind of on fire again. This says the human gift. And, immediately when I look at it, I always see kind of a negative image in this woman lying here. She doesn't look very happy. And she's kind of dressed very plain, kind of flesh-colored clothes. And that sort of contrasts all the color going on around her, and this sort of angel-like being over here. And in this I see another kind of negative mindset that, the person's probably being encouraged to let go of. In my mind, I always see this as someone that's, kind of tired of their existence of humanity and feels disconnected from the universe, from higher sort of beings, and whose humanity often feels like a burden to them. But I think, the card's trying to show that, humanity has its own gifts. All of the different emotions that people feel, even the negative ones. The fact that we die and we're reborn again. It's all sort of a special thing, actually. And that's something that I think, everyone has to keep in mind. And it can also be, just maybe feeling in general that you're not special, that there's nothing special or interesting about you, that you're not good at anything. And then I kind of see this being up here as like a reflection of kind of a very colorful spirit that this person has inside. When someone feels like they're kind of nothing, like they're very typical and there's nothing really interesting about them, that's rarely true. Every person typically has a very colorful inside, a lot going on in them, a lot of gifts to give to the world, and a unique perspective. So, the spirit exists within the person, and everyone has like a unique gift to share. This one's pretty literal. It says a new gown, and she's wearing a gigantic dress. So you can see this person's looking out to the horizon, like something new is coming. And yeah, this could be like a new dawn, new day. New things to look forward to. but by drawing attention to what she's wearing, it's also like, how are you new? How is the way that you're approaching the day? How is the way that you changed going to influence how things go? And how are you bringing yourself into the future? Giving yourself a new perspective, doing something differently, showing up differently. And, sometimes we just need to change something in order for things around us to change with us. This one says sacred union, and you can make out, if you look closely, kind of two figures who are embracing. This could be seen as a romantic card. Almost a soulmate-like card. Or it could be, I think, any, two people who are just really aligned with each other, who are bringing something good into each other's lives. Doesn't have to be in that romantic sense. As the show is feeling very aligned with somebody and getting a lot, learning a lot from them, bringing balance. You see, kind of the darker colors here and the lighter colors here that they're each bringing. Feeling very complete in your connection with someone, like they're bringing into your life, kind of the stuff that maybe you were lacking, and you're creating a very even balance. Even if it's just in one very specific situation that, you needed help with, someone else balancing you out, helping you out, or, and the person who just makes you feel very grounded. One of the prettier cards, I think. So this is the all-encompassing hand. Actually, you see more the person than a hand in this. This kind of shows maybe someone in the palm of the hand of, the universe. And, showing that there's this kind of universal hand that holds us all. And, if you ever heard the phrase, like, in God's hands, like, nothing is as out of control as it seems. We're not really alone in any situation, we're always being guided. It's all happening in a controlled environment, even when it just feels like the universe is chaos and entropy. It's not really, it's all actually perfectly sort of cupped within universe's hand. And we don't have to feel like things are going crazy, falling apart all over the place, because it's actually taking up the perfect amount of space. This is Sacred Phoenix Heart. A little like the Blood Angel card, actually. Definitely similar colors. Again, very intense, passionate looking card. I get a better feeling off of this one, though. Like I said, the other card has a bit more of a negative connotation to me. This one I feel is really the heat, the intensity of being right in the middle of something. But, when something gives you a lot of adrenaline, when you're really into it, when you're just so zoned in on something, and it's making, kind of your heart feel on fire. Now, this could deal with obsession in a way, or, toxic or abusive situation, I think, at its worst. But typically, I think I'd see more just the intensity of something that really means a lot. Okay, this one says the lion and the deer, and you can see neither. depicted on the card, but this person over here. There's definitely a duality present in the card just by its name. The lion and the deer, two very different animals. And yet you're only shown one person, so I think this card really speaks about the dual nature of humanity. You know, nobody's one thing. There's going to be something very intense and bold inside a person, and there's going to be something very sweet and docile inside of a person. And you know, some people are very uncomfortable with duality, with nuance, but we should really embrace all the positive, all of the different sides of ourselves. They all have their place within us. And it could be a positive thing to be either of these, and it could be a negative thing to be either of these. You know, are you being like really bold and protective and going for what you want? Or are you being prideful, aggressive, intimidating, you know? And then is the deer just too docile and unassuming? And does it put itself in danger, or are you just very sweet and caring and loving, and, you know, someone that makes people feel comfortable, you know? These can both be positive and negative expressions, and they all exist within someone. So the card might be calling on you to recognize the nuance of a situation, to, I don't know, switch kind of from oneself to another, to another approach if one's not working. To recognize the importance of all a person's qualities. It could speak about like a relationship between two people, you know, where one has one sort of personality and the other seems very opposite them, and trying to find harmony between those two concepts. Since they show one person, I see more about it being, you know, about what's going on within one person, but could definitely be about dynamic, positive or negative, again, expressions, and something that needs to be explored there. I will try to pronounce this. The Star Mother Arrakis, who knows for sure. But again, you see a figure, kind of a very mystical figure here. And I see in it sort of a reminder, again, of universal presence, that every person is a part of the sort of galactic tapestry. You know, even when you're frustrated with someone, you know, everyone is connected, everyone has their place, and, you know, maybe you have to keep in mind that other people have a right to their opinion, other people have a right to speak and make their presence known, and not to feel like you're above everyone else, like you're the only star in the sky. And I see in it kind of also a feeling of wanting to connect to something universal, and maybe figuring out, how to let that connection in, how to make peace with other people and coexist, in the galaxy with them. And it could also be a card representing just personal magic, the way that you spread your light and your influence. It's really going to depend on the reading. So it's resplendent with grace. And this person almost looks like she's being raptured. I think this could be about feeling almost that rapturous peace and grace that you feel in the moment, like everything's finally going to be okay. Or maybe also she almost looks like she's fainted. I can see it being like about surrendering to the universe, not pushing against, what's happening, just surrendering to whatever's coming to you, whatever's trying to enter or exit your life, understanding that everything is for good. Even if it's a negative situation, you can still meet it with dignity and grace. And just, instead of fighting against it, just let it wash over you. Let it be what it is. And, trust that the sun's going to come out. That it's shining on you already. And, with the blue of the dress sort of going down, it almost looks like there's this kind of negative association that's still stuck to the ground, but she's rising out of it towards the sun. And she's just meeting whatever wants to come to her and accepting what's happened in the past and what's happening in the moments and making space for whatever's going to come in the future. Beyond the threshold of fear. Very much another card about moving past the negative towards the positive, and we see the sun or some sort of light again. And, when fear holds us back so much, more than anything on Earth, people stay stuck in this dark, static sort of place because they're too scared to move forward and to take steps and to see what happens on the path towards the light. So, it's a card that pushes you to move beyond that fear and trust that there's something after it. That all good things come when you're just not afraid anymore. Or even if you're still afraid, that you're going to take steps anyways. You can still do it while you're scared. It's not about completely releasing the concept of fear. It's about not letting that fear hold you back. Risking, the danger of leaving what you already know to move towards something that in your heart is going to be better. It can be really scary to get out of that cave because, people really have that tendency to not want to move and just go, whatever, I'll just sit here forever. Because even if it's terrible, it's the terrible that I know. But they can sit there and feel terrible while looking at this light the whole time and knowing it's there and still refusing to move. So, some people really need to make a big effort to push out of that stagnation. Another one I will attempt to pronounce correctly is Aluza, Star of Venus. I really like the colors in this one, in the purple and pink and white. Very mystical feeling on this one. I feel a lot of self-love coming out of this card with the warm tones and the white. I'm just feeling very embraced by this space. It also looks like a cave a bit, but like a very warm, inviting one. And the way that she's got two arms kind of over herself, like she's embracing herself. I see this as a card with a lot of self-love. Embracing the self. Feeling content within. And, not being ashamed of the self. I feel like she glows white here, She generates that energy and that light herself, and the more we love ourselves, the more we embrace ourselves, feel self-confidence, the more we glow, the more other people can feel our light. And she lights up this cave on her own, see? So I see that as a really powerful card, and I like it a lot. You've hit the part where they all have strange names. This one says the Angel Rasbar. See, this is a very jovial card. I don't know, maybe it's the colors or kind of the posture that's going on here. But you can see she's spreading something colorful here. I see it's just a card of joy, kind of maybe playing off the last card, personal empowerment. You know, she's colorful, she stands very tall in her own sort of wave of light. And she's kind of spreading something down to other people. And, you know, I think it's like when you feel good about yourself, it's so easy to spread joy to others, to, like, lend your hand. You see she's reaching out. And, you know, I think the way that feeling good about yourself, having a positive mindset, pushing yourself to do good, brings more good into your life. It makes you feel big, feel confident and powerful. It allows you to help other people very easily. Or this could represent someone in your life who you feel like is like this and reaches out to you a lot and lends you a lot of help, energy, gives you confidence, anything like that. This one says enter the Garden of Delights. I feel like within the title, with the imagery, it's supposed to evoke like the Garden of Eden. This could literally represent nature and it being a positive thing for you. I feel like there's a feeling of mystery in this card. You know, embracing something different, a little mysterious that you have to search through, not knowing what's coming, but being excited for it. Letting the unknown be like a exciting, tempting thing. I could see it as being a bit of a hedonistic card, like I said, about enjoyment, temptation, the idea of the Garden of Eden. Could be about embracing or entering a time of all sorts of pleasurable enjoyment. Could be a sexual card in that sense. And with the way everything's kind of growing wild here, very natural, whatever, this could be a card of like sexual enjoyment or experimentation. And being in a situation or time of life where that's going to be relevant. I think just a reminder, you know, could be being adventurous in that way, or just a reminder to be adventurous in life in general. Keep your mind open, and to really be in tune with all your senses every day to what's around you. Make sure you're not missing anything. You're really taking in the intrigue and the beauty of everything around you. This might be one of the most direct cards. It just says the right choice on it. This could be, you know, confirmation that something that you've just done or you're thinking of doing is the correct choice. Or it could be a card, maybe you're wavering on an idea or feeling discomfort with a choice you've made, and this card could be coming up to urge you to change your mind, to go, you know, deep down you know what the right choice is and you know it's not what you're doing right now. But I think this card comes up when maybe that choice is obvious, but sometimes people ignore the obvious and just double down on what they're doing even when it feels bad. And something about this person's kind of posture with the arms, it's like there's that real obvious feeling towards it, like it's something just plainly in front of you. And with their arms open, I feel like it's a real encouragement, you know, embrace what you know is right, what feels good, embrace the correct choice. If you feel strongly something's right, rest confident in that feeling. And if you know something is wrong, then make that change and feel good about that change, and don't second guess yourself. Okay, this one says Whirling Goddess. I really like the colors on this one too. Kind of reminds me of an aquarium. Anyways, I see a lot of enjoyment typically in this card as well, though I could see this more than one way. I could feel like this is, being caught up in the moment of something, really feeling a lot of enjoyment, like almost like swept off your feet. She's twirling. And really embracing, the emotion of the moments, or something that's happening very quickly, and really just leaning into it. Though I could also see it as feeling like you're being twirled around and around, and like you don't have a lot of control, and you're just being like whipped around, and maybe like you want to stop that feeling, take more control. How do you stop something when it seems to have taken hold of your life, and you just need to stand on your feet again? So I could see it either way. This one says commitment. And, this could be about fear of commitments. It could be encouraging you to commit to a choice. Sometimes, you might really want something, but you're afraid of it. And you have to, it's a reminder that you're not really going to get what you want if you don't truly commit yourself to obtaining it or to holding on to it. And it could also show a situation where you feel you've committed yourself to something or someone that you do not want to be associated with anymore, and you want to break that commitment because it's smothering you, which, is just as valid if you're feeling deeply that this is not the right thing for you, and, there's being called towards something else, there's a new light forming above you. So, that could be dealing with your need to commit to something so that you don't lose it because you're really called to it, or dealing with knowing that you have to release yourself from a commitment because there's something better for you, and it's not bringing you any happiness or sense of purpose anymore. This is a fun one. I like this one. I feel like it's a very unique looking one amongst the other cards. She offers the sacred wine, so drink. This could be another very hedonistic card, showing, this could be about a person, you're feeling very attracted to. This could show the presence of, or upcoming, someone in your life that you're going to feel very passionate about, or have a very passionate connection to. It could be a card, I think, that deals with sexual situations in a lot of different ways. And, if this represents another person, you could see it in a very positive way, someone that really brings out, inspires, a fun side of you that makes you feel super connected to them. Someone that, really arouses you. Or it could show somebody who's manipulative, she's holding something out, but is it positive or is it negative, Is it something that's going to kind of disorient you? You could see something like alcohol in a positive or a negative way, if that's, if she's holding, let's say, wine. Maybe that's someone who's manipulative, who's going to take advantage of you, who, uses an attraction or feeling like you need them against you. So this could be a positive or a negative figure, depending. It could represent, you pull, it could represent you as a person. Maybe that you're being encouraged to let go, to have more fun, to not overthink things so much or just go with the flow. Or I could also see it as an encouragement to be more sensible and understand when there's a time that you have to rein it in. And, that offering doesn't have to be any of the things I said. It could be being called towards something else. Being called towards some sort of knowledge, some sort of, spiritual sensation. Really cool card, though. You who show the way. Again, this one focuses on sort of a guiding light. Could deal with, you could see that as sort of a religious sentiment. Again, about being spiritually, divinely guided. Or being guided by someone in your life who acts kind of like as a lighthouse and gets you through the darkness and the waves. Keeping your eyes on something you want to move towards. It could represent you, yourself, and your ability to shine a light for other people and be somebody that other people look up to. There's another one that's very much about how you or another person or the universe itself can act as a guiding light. Okay. This is another favorite of mine. It says Layla. One thing I like about this card is that I very much feel it evokes the feeling of the Eric Clapton song Layla, if you're familiar with it. Especially kind of that ethereal, musical section of it. If you've never heard that song, I recommend it and the entire Layla album. Worth listening to. It has a really cool cover. But, I'll plug more albums another time. Yeah, again, in this one, I feel very much like a surrender to the universe. Like she's kind of falling back. And this could be about just, keeping your head above water in a time of chaos. Or embracing that feeling of chaos. Maybe it's going to be something good. Maybe you lean into it. Or just, find a way to enjoy things even when they seem to be all over the place. I feel like she's kind of creating her own spiraling sort of design on her own, and she's, taking something chaotic and making it structured. So, I also see kind of just, that sense of not losing a sense of self amidst a very chaotic situation. And how you mold your own reality, no matter what's happening. I promise we're almost done. So, this one says, the lover and the beloved. And you can see two people embracing here. This could be a romantic card. And showing, the emergence or the existence of some sort of relationship. And it could be positive or negative commentary on a relationship. Maybe it's an interesting wording. Not the lovers, the lover and the beloved. It could show one-sided obsession or kind of a toxic reliance on another person. And that one person really shows love or shows support and is really there for the other person, and that the other does not reciprocate. Or it could show positively that, one person is really just great support for the other and that there's a balance created. I could also see it as going after something doesn't have to be a person. When you really have a passion, when you love something, doing what you can to chase it and to obtain it. And that could be in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. It shows something about the way we go after things. To the dynamic between us and what we want. Or even the way that maybe we take advantage of other people. If other people give us a lot and we don't reciprocate. But we sort of just let them be that support without giving anything back. And maybe awareness needs to be drawn to that. Oh yeah, this one's intense. It's a Passion of the Wild Red Mother.
And there is a tiny little person standing there, if you really look closely.
Definitely about a very big situation. This could be about feeling, right at the heart of something. Really, reaching the important part of something that's unfolding. Seeing, I think, the deep purpose in it, or the meaning of what's been going on. You've finally gotten to, the center of the earth. You could be dealing with someone who's very aggressive or angry. Or even if they have, they're trying to express a positive emotion, it comes out very intensely. It could be you yourself who's that intense person who has trouble cooling down with the tiny little kind of figure. I always feel like it's, observing, standing and observing and feeling very small and in awe of something, is coming from another person or from a situation, and it can be kind of an incredible thing or a really daunting thing to face. I also feel like, this is something I could actually deal with, parental relationships. Especially if someone has a mother who's, really overbearing. Mother or father. And sort of trying to connect with cool relationships with a parental figure. Because parents can feel very, very big in our lives. Even when we're adults, And, the influence that they have on us, traumatic or otherwise, can do a lot to influence our future lives. And sometimes as an adult, we just have to face that and deal with that years later. And it can be a really daunting topic to face, I think. I got a family theme going here. It says Sacred Soul Sister. Again, I could read this a few ways. This can be, a positive relationship with another person maybe that you even feel mirrors you. Really feeling like, this person, there's a lot of people I think we look at in our lives and go oh, they're so like me. And that can be a really positive thing, oh wow, so connected, feel so understood. Or it can be looking at someone and being like, I don't like something about them, that's something's very off-putting, they make me feel bad in a way, and realizing it's because they're such a reflection of you, and you don't always like yourself or like your behavior. So I can definitely see this as a reflection of the self in one of those ways. Or it could deal with, a sibling or a close friend or something like that, and, be an exploration of that relationship. I've seen in a card that makes you look at yourself as well as the other person. And this one says the courage of your love. And again, I could see it as a card that's, commentary on how another person can make you a better person and help you see through the negativity, or how you could do that for another person. And, people are stronger together. That doesn't just have to be, like a relationship thing. Any two people that are really supportive, that care, that, try to show you the truth of things. When you have that in another person, it makes everything better. And when you have good support and someone you can trust, it makes it so much easier to look forward, to see the future. I always feel like they're on like a projector when I look at this. It makes the future or outcome of any situation less scary when you feel like you have good support. This blessing of Zara. Again, I see, connection to the universe. Feeling blessed by it or wanting to feel blessed by it. I could see this as someone who's kind of self-important, who feels like they're above other people, especially with all the green, kind of envious coloring in it. But it can also be about just receiving a very personal sort of blessing from the universe, or feeling that something you have is such a blessing in your life. And, when you're given that thing, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to let that affect you and affect other people? This was the card that you got in your reading. It says Blessing of Al-Hakim. Yeah, depending on the situation, I think could mean a lot of things. Like I said, it could be about sort of searching for blessings in chaos, like we talked about. I think it can be about the beauty of things that are a little messy or a little imperfect. Maybe the feeling that, what you got wasn't exactly what you envisioned, but it's actually more beautiful for its strangeness, for its imperfections. And, being able to be grateful for something, even if it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be, or not what other people might want. And being like, my blessing in this life is unique. And it's interesting for that. And it's okay to do things differently, to be a different type of person, to be a very colorful and unpredictable sort of person. And I see a lot of creativity in this card, a lot of potential for creating something, starting something. Since it says Victory of Miriam. This can be about achieving something you've been working, a long time towards, finally being victorious. I think, and it's least, it's less positive interpretations. This could be feeling self-righteous, kind of lauding something over other people, and there could be a reminder in it to be humble, to not rub things in other people's faces, remember other people's struggles as well as your own. But it's positive expression. It's just finally reaching up and grabbing hold of something, achieving a victory, being proud of yourself, feeling happy for yourself. And you see positive, maybe positive self-confidence and believing that you deserve what you have. It says dance of the divine feminine. Again, very swirly. In the spiritual concept of the divine feminine, the divine masculine, which, despite popular opinion and being extremely misused, especially I've noticed online by certain people, the concepts of divine feminine and divine masculine have nothing to do with gender. It's kind of a yin-yang thing, being two different expressions of energy that are both held within us. The divine masculine is active energy. It's, it's doing, it's speaking, it's very invigorated energy. It's taking action. And kind of like the obvious bright side of things, and the feminine is the more dark, mysterious side of things. A little more, the masculine is more the physical, the obvious, and the feminine is more the mystical and mysterious. And it's a more passive energy, it's observing, it's listening, it's receiving. It's knowing that, there's a time for action, but there's a time to sit back and to wait, to observe, to let things sink in. So and these two energies are supposed to exist both within every person. So someone that you say has a lot of masculine energy just might be a more aggressive, go-getter person. Someone that, embodies the feminine energy might be more laid back, more of a listener, an observer, less of an obvious personality. But neither of these are positive or negative, and neither of these are gendered concepts. And someone who has only one of these energies would be very unbalanced, because there's a time to speak and a time to listen and a time to give and a time to receive, and a time to be in the spotlight and a time to step out of it. Sorry for going on a little rant there, but just to give some context, because I've noticed, especially in kind of pseudo-spiritual places, I'll call it, online, it's this idea of extreme femininity and masculinity that we all have to ascribe to in order to be in tune, and that it's dangerous for women to be in masculine energy and men to be in feminine energy, and it's become so prevalent lately. And it's just a complete misunderstanding of these really ancient concepts. Anyway, so dance of the divine feminine. You see this as, maybe someone who's really been in that feminine energy lately in a positive or a negative way. Maybe they've become a little too reclusive. Maybe they're too, with only observation, they become too judgmental, too in their head. Maybe they've gotten a bit of a big ego, feeling that they're very spiritual, that they're all knowing, and that they kind of need to break out of this and let more of the masculine energy take over. Or it could be a card that symbolizes, the way in which someone is bringing the divine feminine energy into the world or into somebody else's life in a really positive way. they've got that caring, nurturing, listening energy, and maybe they're bringing that to the world using those gifts in a really positive way. It could be commentary on even a specific relationship in which, you're bringing that feminine energy very strongly, or you're being called on to bring more feminine energy, less of the, masculine energy, because maybe the other person needs someone to listen to what they're saying, or needs someone to, even them out in some way with what they're going through. So you could see this in a lot of ways to do with that energy. But I think it's a reminder that there's, kind of beauty in every type of expression. And, you should never feel it's wrong to, be more of a certain type of person, but also to remember that every relationship you have with another person is going to need give and take balance. And that within yourself, you can't be constantly in action or constantly lying in wait. Or in any area of life, you can't be too much of one thing, not enough of another thing. We all need a little bit of each. And if you've seen the yin-yang symbol with the white and the black, there's a little dot of the opposite color in each side to show that, there has to be that balance, a little bit of the dark and the light, and vice versa. I talked for a really long time about that, I'm sorry. Here's another one with a hand of Fatima, I believe. And here you can both see this as this kind of divine sort of presence holding up a hand to this woman, or I also see the woman holds up her hand and it makes this huge cosmic imprint in the sky. I think it shows that, every individual person can have a really big cosmic impact and hold a lot of personal power equal to that of this kind of cosmic spirit. And, it takes both the spirits and the universal energies on the other side of us, as well as every living human spirit, in order to create balance in the world, in order to influence the world. And every person can have an influence. And every person is actually made up of a piece of the universe. And the human soul isn't of this earth. It's of the universe at large. And, it's hard to remind you to remember that connection. Remember that you're bigger than your physical form, bigger than your humanity, bigger than this one life. And, this person up here, this spirit up here, can be a reflection of your, the human person's inner soul. Or it can be showing the way that, even this more godlike figure is kind of in a way equal to the person. Their hands are kind of the same size. And, remembering your own power in this world, in this universe. And your ability to guide things more than you think possible. This is the final card. It says Merciful Mother Jamal, or maybe not Jamal, but that's how I'm going to read it. And again, I can see this as either a human or a spiritual figure. This could be, feeling kind of like a Mother Nature figure, feeling like you're divinely protected. Like remembering that everything's going to be okay. The universe has a plan for you. You're being supported both on the other side and, in this natural physical world by something bigger. Or it can be about being this figure, bringing grace, mercy, magnanimity to other people. And, again, another one where it's like, stand tall and feel within your power and make sure that you're within that power you're giving to other people. When you're merciful, when you're forgiving, you bring a lot of power into yourself. Some people don't want to be forgiving. They think it's beneath them to forgive a person, to accept someone's faults, to take someone back into their life who did not act well. But actually, mercy gives us so much power to believe in another person's growth, to give a second chance where we can see it's deserved, to act as a positive figure, maybe a role model for that person, so that they see this merciful figure that you are, and they're inspired to act in the same way. So again, I see a lot of personal power, ability to influence other people in a good way within this card, or it can represent a person in your life who maybe you look up to and you feel encompasses these really positive, beautiful, powerful qualities, and who spreads that around to you and to others. Okay. That was 1,000,000 years long. But there you go. That's this deck. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you really like these cards. But let me know what you think. And I think the main takeaway here was listen to the Layla album, Eric Clapton. Anyway, let me know if that was good. If you want to see any other card decks that I have, I can do this again one day. Yeah.